to Getting Gritty with It with your host, Yariv Wolok, and I have a different episode today. I decided to take a week off from guests. No particular reason as far as issues with anybody or anything like that, but I've just been super busy. If anybody follows me in general, I'm doing several other podcasts now, rubbing elbows with my sister, which involves, I guess, more networking and business entrepreneurs and stuff like that, and some celebrities as well. And then I'm doing a video game podcast called Play on Gamers with my buddy Ben. And that's been really fun as well. And just been super busy, but I had opportunities to book other people. But I thought maybe take an episode for myself. I don't normally do this. I do the gritty rants, and I would say maybe this is more like a long form gritty rants, just to kind of supplement getting gritty with it and gritty rants, because just to share my thoughts in particular. Like, I get my thoughts out usually during the podcast, but I thought, I want to go through topics on my own. And then, for next week, I got Bill Meltzer coming on. And then the following week, I got Steve Cornianos again. So it's not like I'm going to be short on guests. I will be traveling out of the country, actually. July 17th, I'll be in Israel for about a month, actually. I'm going to try to get Appleyard. I've talked to him in the past about potentially doing something because we'll be on similar time zones. But I'll still be providing content from there, so don't expect the episodes to stop or anything like that. Might become a little bit different just for that month, but the off season will pass by. Obviously, all free agency, which that's coming up. Expansion. I'll still be making content around that. I'll still be following that, and if I can't do episodes with people because of the time zone difference, I'll be working on doing just a gritty rant, just share my thoughts. But I don't think I'll have too much of a loss there. You're just the background will definitely be different than what you're seeing now. But overall, I just wanted to get into it. I wanted to get into it myself, and I wanted to talk about kind of my own thoughts about the current situation with the playoffs and where the Flyers are going in general. And I don't think anybody really knows at this point, which is completely understandable. I don't expect anybody who says that they know, I think they know as well as anybody else. Doesn't mean they're wrong. They might have better instincts than other people. I get this stuff wrong all the time. Everybody gets it. That's why I don't like these prediction stuff, and that's why I don't like rankings and all that, because very rarely are we accurate, and very rarely do we have an opportunity um to really reflect on that, because a lot of times we kind of just talk, and we don't really talk about our wins or success. Everybody just talks up when they're right and when they're wrong. But that's okay. I mean, that's not really an issue. It's really all about kind of enjoying it. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with predictions. I don't think there's anything wrong with people stating what they want. The only thing I say is just calm down a little bit. The city has a tendency to, I don't want to say lose control. I don't want to say, I don't think there's anything different here than there is in other cities. I don't think we're worse than other cities, to be honest with you, especially if you think about a city like Toronto. I mean, they are sometimes not out of control, but, it's complicated there. It's complicated. And you saw the way that they reacted when they lost to Montreal. And, Montreal's obviously no pushover. And while Montreal maybe stole the series from them in the end, they stole some other series as well. So, I imagine that fan base probably can relax a little bit. And I think that's what I like to do. This is like my reflection episode. So let's get into it. Let's start. Well, first, let's thank our sponsors, Jim Steaks, Steaks on South. Thank you so much, Jim's, for being our sponsor. Again, they are Flyers fans. We're still working on a live show there. It'll probably happen when I get back from Israel at this point. But I do have Frankie leading the helm on that, so we'll be working on some live stuff. Had to delegate a little bit, but he kind of stepped up to the plate, so I'm going to try to get him to kind of lead the charge on that. I've been way too busy, unfortunately, with my job and then the 4 other podcasts. So it's just been a little bit complicated. There's also the Don't Panic podcast, the live one I do with Chris Mayer. I haven't said his name wrong. And that will still be coming back. We'll be getting back to that probably when I get back from the holidays or from my vacation. He's been away on vacation as well. It's just been getting kind of complicated. He's actually graduating high school. Congrats to Chris. So again, more content to come. All right, let's roll forward with it. Habs Lightning. This is interesting, okay? Because the reality is the Lightning are the favorites. If you look at the media and stuff like that, people are giving the Habs the nod. could happen. At this point, I didn't think the Habs were going this far. The only thing, the X factor I talked about is Carey Price. I mean, I said it leading into this. People looked at me a little surprised when I said it. I said Carey Price is the best goaltender in the National Hockey League. I don't know why anybody would be shocked about that. He's exceptional. He's been exceptional every year, even though his numbers dip up and down. You know what you're getting with him. He is exceptional. And he's got a great personality too. I love the way he just carries himself. So it doesn't, and I will say this, it's not that they're winning just because of Price either. I mean, they've earned these wins. Vegas is no pushover, right? I still thought Tampa Bay would beat Vegas in the finals, and Tampa Bay has been my pick since the beginning, but Habs were not my pick. And they've impressed me. I mean, the additions that they've made of Stahl, of Perry. And obviously they have Shea Weber. But guys like Armia are standing up. Obviously, Cole Caulfield is scoring goals, right? They're getting something from everybody. Tyler Toffoli was already on fire before the season started. I think he finished with 28 goals in 56 games. I mean, talking about potential 40-goal pace there. So they have the talent this year beyond what they had last year. And this year, they're just putting it together. Like, they had a 1 point more than the Flyers in the regular season. So for all those people who think the Flyers are that far away, I still believe it's the weakest division in hockey, but it shows how much parity there is in the league. And it shows realistically that you have to play as a team to win. And this is something I talk about all the time. You're not going to go out there and get that one player who's going to fix all your problems. It doesn't happen. In fact, I'd argue if that's really what you think you need, you're not good. If you need one player to make you a great team, it's very rare that you'll get that. Like, for instance, let's talk about Chris Pronger, right? Coming to the Flyers. Flyers were already a good team. They weren't a bad team. In fact, they had the assets to get him, right? So they traded a good amount to get him. And they got him, I believe it was Lupul, Spiza, and 2 firsts, which is a lot. Again, but for a 35-year-old Hall of Fame defender, he was he was a locker room changer, but this team was already good. What he did was give us that little bit extra to be a cup contender. That is something an elite player can do. But the team needs to play well. And if you look at what Canadians are doing, again, I thought Eric Stahl was a great addition. Again, you're just talking about locker room, talking about rebounding. They already had enough talent, at least to score. They still lack like that number one true center, especially a veteran wise, but they have young centers who are very talented. So they're supplementing there, right? They brought in extra veterans to supplement their youth. And, pretty smart. It's paid off for them for sure. I don't know if this is a run that they can, like, I wouldn't expect the Montreal Canadiens to come in next season and be one of the best teams in the league. But they're on kind of like, I don't want to say magical run. I think they've earned it. But they're playing as a team, like they didn't like Vegas kind of lost that game after Fleury gave up that goal, or the series after Fleury gave up that goal. For whatever reason, they just lost momentum afterward. Maybe they lost their belief to win that series. They did play well. Carey Price stood up to them. Again, a lot of factors going Montreal's way, but they made their own luck happen. So they deserve it. I mean, they deserve to be where they are. Do I say that they are a Stanley Cup team? Yeah, but it's tough in a year where if they win, it's hard for you to say that they're the best team in the league. But doesn't mean they don't deserve it. There's no asterisks on this Stanley Cup. Promise you that much. And that city will go wild. And honestly, good for them if they do pull it off. Having said that, I do expect Tampa Bay to walk away with this series. I know we have Lance, myself and Jamie, honestly, we're too busy to go to the stadiums, and Lance has done an amazing job with our site and providing content. And I know he's got followers as well. So Lance is our pick. We got him for Game 7. If it does go to Game 7, we'll be sending Lance out to Tampa Bay to cover that game. So it's an awesome, achievement for our brand. And obviously Jamie is a big part of that. Myself, Lance, the team, Samantha, Frankie, Chris, everybody who contributes, Claire, everybody. Like, that's a team effort thing. And people are noticing us because our team is consistent. We consistently provide content, and, we're trying, we're nobodies. We're new. We've been around for like under 2 years. The connections we have are minimal. The things we try to do we're like a startup company essentially. And that's how Jamie and I operate, right? Everything's quick. Everything's consistent, agile. We're trying. So hopefully we can send Lance out there. I don't know if that'll come to the case. We go be a Game 7, but that will be the biggest game of the year, no doubt about it. A Game 7 Stanley Cup final. So that would be incredible if it does happen. So it's a double-edged sword. I did pick Tampa Bay. I don't have any money on it or anything like that. I picked Tampa Bay just for the sheer amount of talent. I mean, I thought they were going to win to begin with. They don't have a single hole in that lineup. I mean, you got Sergachev in your bottom pairing. Your top pairing has Hedman on it. Your second pairing has McDonough on it, who's arguably a number one defender on a lot of teams. He's a very good defender. I've always loved Ryan McDonough. They obviously have just good talent all around. Braden Point is extremely talented and maybe my favorite player on that team. Nikita Kucherov is one of the best point producers in the league, without a doubt. Maybe their best player, though I'd say maybe it's probably Hedman at this point, but Hedman, Point, Stamkos, Kucherov, like, what do they not have? That's what I'm saying. Like, what does this team not have? They have Blake Coleman, Barclay Goodrow. They have Alexander Killorn. They just have every single element that you need to win. So normally I would say if they were the team trying to go back to back, I'd say they probably don't have what it takes to do it. Given that their opponent isn't the strongest on paper, and again, I do say on paper, they still have talent, and Shea Weber is, if you want to match up a defenseman against Hedman, Shea Weber's that guy. Big, strong, veteran, doesn't, he'll be there under pressure. He'll be there to lift that locker room. But, they just don't have a weakness. They can attack in all four lines, all three defensive groups. And I mean like attack. Like every line is talented. And then, Montreal has Carey Price, who is, in my opinion, the best goalie in the league. And then the second best goalie in the league is on the other team. So that's a problem for Montreal. Like whatever Montreal can throw out, Tampa Bay has it and has it in spades. And I know there's the controversy with their salary cap. I personally don't even like the salary cap, so I'm not going to be harping too much on that. And people don't, I guess, I don't say people don't, but it matters that they didn't have some of these players kind of rolling into the playoffs, and they did have to deal with injuries. We don't know what kind of injuries they carried into the playoffs. Just because the guy's killing it doesn't mean he doesn't have an injury. I mean, we saw Sean Couturier get a 5-point game on a torn meniscus, I believe. So, players play through pain. So I think Tampa Bay is the favorite. I don't know how you can't say they're not. I can understand you're rooting for the other team. I can understand that. And I can understand Canada deserving a cup. And I do think it's good for the game if Canada wins a cup. But I just don't know how you say that Tampa Bay is not the favorite. I mean, they literally have everything. They have everything that you want in a team. And they won last year. So it's not like you're like, oh, they've fallen short all the time. It's like they have the experience, they have the talent, they have the depth, they have the physicality. But people have underestimated Montreal. I underestimated Montreal. I didn't think they were going to go this far. I'd say majority of teams didn't think they were going to go this far. Look at the way Toronto reacted after blowing that 3-1 lead in the series. And Toronto was the more talented team. So the talent doesn't always matter. I will say that. But when a team's got it all together, that matters. And Tampa Bay, they beat the Islanders, who I would say are a stingy team like the Canadians. But we'll see. I mean, Barry Trotz is an amazing coach, and he still wasn't able to beat the Lightning. And they had talent on the team. They also had depth, right? Very deep team as well. I'd argue even a little more deep than Montreal is right now. But Montreal's got talent. They got speed. They got talent. I still give the nod to Tampa Bay. I expect them to win, and I expect them to win in less than 7. Sorry, Lance, and sorry, team. If it goes to 7, I think it's a win for Flyers Nitty Gritty, and just a win for the NHL. I mean, Game 7 Stanley Cup game, like, forget it. Everybody's gonna be watching that game. That's awesome. So let's hope it goes to 7, to be honest with you. But reality is not reality, but my opinion is that I think Tampa Bay just has the edge. And I think they have, like I said, the skill, the will, um, and the experience to do it. So there is experience on the other end. I think it's going to be interesting. I think it's an interesting series. I would have preferred to see Vegas, because I think Vegas maybe would have been able to take them to task a little bit more just from a talent standpoint. But again, talent's not the whole thing, just names on paper don't always, that's not exactly what you necessarily see. And some guys make their name in these times of year. So, and this is kind of, I don't like using magical run because I feel like it takes away from the Canadians. Like it's some kind of like special sauce but it's no, this is a hockey team. This is what they do when you play good defense together. I mean, they shut down Vegas. They didn't. It wasn't like Carey Price stole the show every second. They shut down Vegas. They really did. Vegas had the edge in a lot of the early games, but as the series went on, Montreal found a way to shut them down. I think Tampa Bay has a better way of adjusting, and we saw that. I mean, that 8-0 loss really caught the Islanders off guard. I think Tampa Bay adjusted to them, and then they didn't give up a goal the final game either. So Vasilevsky has a way of kind of shutting the door down too. So, it's going to be an interesting matchup. But I do expect Tampa Bay to take it. So, sorry, Hab fans, you don't have me yet. But I will say, you're much better than I anticipated. And if anybody listened to this podcast all year, I didn't believe in Montreal. But I love a team that can play together as a team. You know, like there are like I said, there's still teams better on paper than Montreal that you could say deserves to be there, though. It doesn't matter if you deserve to be there because your name's on paper. Flyers have a very good team on paper, did not show shit this year. They played as, especially parts of this season, maybe the worst team in the league. They're not the worst team in the league. Important to remember that. That's why they're not picking at the bottom. Even with all their faults and how horrible they played, their rock bottom is not that far low. So people need to remember that. That means that ceiling is still high, and I would not expect some kind of blow up the roster type of move here. Though I do expect a big move, and I'll get into that a little bit later. So the one thing I do want to address before I move on, I talked about Price and Vasilevsky. Like, that's a great matchup there, and I think that's going to be really interesting throughout the whole series. But the Cole Caulfield situation, if you watched my video Caulfield versus York that I released a while ago, and I pumped it out a little while ago, there should be no surprise that Cole Caulfield is awesome. Like, anybody who's going, oh my God, he's scoring goals, I bet this burns the team. I don't think any NHL team is surprised that Cole Caulfield is scoring goals. Like, you have to be nuts. That U.S. program is so good. Look at the names that have come out of there. They know he's good. They didn't pass him up because they thought he couldn't score. He's a great prospect. That was known even when he was in college, where he didn't miss a beat. Like, it's not a shocker to me. I expect him to be awesome. I expected him. Again, everybody associated with that team is awesome. I even heard that the Ducks are in on Eichel, okay? And of course, Buffalo wants Zegras. And immediately Ducks are like, he's not even on the table. That U.S. program is sick. And that crop of players that play together, sick. Look at Farabee this year for us. I know a lot of people don't think he's going to be a superstar. I think he is a superstar. I think almost all of them are. And in various ways. I don't even know what a superstar is anymore, because apparently if you're great for a decade, that doesn't make you a superstar. If you're top of the league in points, it's McDavid or bust at this point. Or you have a high year, you're a superstar for 1 year, you have a down year, you're out. And I don't see things that way. You're a great player, like Roman Josi is still one of the best defensemen in the league, right? Just like Cale Makar, if he struggles, are people going to give up on him? Are they going to say, oh, it's just he burned out in the night? But this constant comparison of every time he does well, that people have to go online and complain about Caulfield. We know he's good. Anybody who thinks it's surprising that he's putting up points, why? He's awesome. He's awesome. He was awesome the year he was drafted. It doesn't mean the other guys taken ahead of him aren't awesome too. He's a goal scorer. That's what he is. He's a point producer, not a goal scorer. He's a point producer. The kid's got it all. He's awesome. Maybe he should have gone higher, but he's 5'7". So there's a little bit of a risk element. So he went top 15. That doesn't make him a dog shit player. I mean, Claude Giroux was undersized, got drafted late in the draft by the Flyers. Our GM barely remembered his name. He's top 5 pick in that draft. I would argue top 3. Especially because he's a center. It doesn't matter when you're getting picked. I say this all the time. It's not up to us. It's not up to the rankings. It's up to them. It's up to them. And people shouldn't doubt Cole Caulfield. on the other end of that spectrum, I'm noticing we should have took Caulfield, but notice how the Flyers need a defenseman right now, and notice how Cam York is a great defensive prospect. Like, let's not forget about that. Let's enjoy York. We need D as well. And right now, York has potential top pairing potential. I mean, this kid has also exceeded expectations. He's also been really good in every showing. He's not going to be a goal scorer like Caulfield. Like, don't expect him to be on breakaways. He's a defenseman, but maybe he'll be setting up Travis Konechny for breakaways, right? Well, I know he's been in trade rumors, and I do want to address that as well. But again, not to take, I think Cole Caulfield is awesome. Like, again, I love that U.S. program. All of them, even Wallstrom, who I rarely talk about, also a great prospect. They have so many. John Beecher. We could just keep going. Boldy, Knight, who already played in the playoffs and did really well as a young, guys, it's a constant pattern with this team. Like, don't get upset when you see them do well. Like, grass is greener on both sides. That's why we went for York. We wanted a defenseman. He was available. We grabbed him. He's probably the second. He could end up being the best defenseman from that draft, but he's probably the second best defenseman from that draft. So let's give it time, and let's not assume we have to be bitter about it. It's okay that Caulfield is killing it. There's a lot of young players who are going to be killing it around the league. They don't all have to be on our team. And I don't really think that goal scoring is the Flyers' biggest problem, to be honest. Speedy, undersized players, not really the Flyers' issue. Even though maybe Cole Caulfield is better than Frost. Maybe he's better than Bobby Brink. He's better than Brink. Maybe he's better than TK. But again, is it a problem? Are we seeing who's making to the finals here? It's about depth, team play. Cole Caulfield wouldn't be doing what he's doing without the team around him. It's not happening. If he was on Buffalo, yeah, he'd be playing with Eichel, but do you guys think you'd be talking about him the same way? They have Rasmus Dahlin, who's like Austin Matthews on defense. This kid is immensely talented. And people are like, yeah, Dahlin. I'll trade for him. I'll take him in a heartbeat. All right, let's move on. But good luck to the Habs and good luck to the Lightning. I still give the edge to the Lightning, but it's interesting to watch. I mean, I definitely underestimated the Habs as a team, like their ability to play as a team, and the physicality. I say this all the time. It's not a young man's game, and it's not and size matters. Like, all this media stuff. And next year the rules will be different, by the way. Just so everybody's aware, the teams will be different. What you need to win will be slightly different. So don't think that you got to rebuild your franchise according to the way this one season went. And I don't think many GMs will be. And the ones that do will probably be punished for it. So let's move on. I do want to talk about, again, I have Meltzer coming on next week. So that'd be the 7th. And then Corniano's coming on the following. I think that's the 14th, if I can do my math right. So those should be really good. And Corniano's, I think we're going to do a little more prospect talk. Probably some playoff conversation, talk about the winners. And he's just awesome to talk to. I love talking to him. And then Bill Meltzer, obviously, it's my Philadelphia Flyers media hero, there's nobody I respect more than Bill Meltzer. Jason Martinez, again, I love their podcast. I think they're exceptional. But Bill, I grew up learning about Flyers hockey from him, which you can see is why I'm more measured. It's also my personality, especially if you knew my dad. I'm not I don't like to let my emotions fluctuate too much. And that's always why Bill appealed to me, honestly, is because he has a very measured approach. Like, even the statements that he makes, he always gives himself a margin for error. He always says, hey, I'm not gospel here. And neither am I. If anybody thinks that, just because I don't think that I'm gospel, and I am not afraid to be wrong. Just so anybody, I don't care. If I get something wrong and people go, nani, nani, boo, boo, you got it wrong, I don't care. I'm going to say a lot of things on this podcast, and I've already been doing this for 2 years, and I'm not going to stop. So I'm going to say a lot of things that are wrong. The one thing I don't do is insult people or athletes. I don't like doing that. I really don't like doing that. I don't like drama. So that's not my thing. But I'm definitely going to get stuff wrong from here and there. I'm not too worried about it. And until I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And I don't care. And I'll say I'm wrong. I don't care. Doesn't mean I'm going to be wrong on the next one. I've been talking about York for a couple of years already. And yeah, I think my projection of him has been pretty accurate. My Farabee projection is pretty accurate. Again, the guys that I talk up, and I still believe in N.Patrick. I'm going to talk about him in a second. I still believe in talent, and I believe in. I have a growth mindset. I don't have this fixated. You are what you are. That's. I would recommend if you have people like that around you that think you are what you are. Um, One, I'd say maybe they're more talking about sports, and hopefully they're not talking about life in general. But find people who don't think like that. Find people who believe in a growth mindset. You're not done growing. You're not done evolving. You're not done changing. And just because there's a bump in the road, I mean this in life in general, does not mean that that is going to affect you forever. And that includes most of these athletes, you know, and most of them have a growth mindset. The ones that don't, they're not going to make it, unfortunately. Before I get into Nolan Patrick, though, I do want to give a shout out to Dave Hackstall, former Philadelphia Flyers coach. He has now been named the head coach of the Seattle Kraken. I don't think anybody would have predicted that a little while ago. I don't think many people even knew he was interviewing for it. Um, Having said that, from what I understand, and I listen to the Steve Dangle podcast quite a bit, they're super entertaining. I like those guys. They're a little bit of a panic button, but in good like nature. And I think that they're awesome. They have a really entertaining podcast. If you guys do listen to them, check them out on YouTube. I know they have the audio version too, but check them out on YouTube. They're just so fun to listen to. Like they obviously love the game. All three of them love hockey, and it shows. Even if they're not accurate or whatever, it doesn't matter. They don't take themselves too seriously, and they have a great show. So, but shout out to Jesse over there. He mentioned this earlier when I was listening to him. That Toronto's defense was improved this year. Dave Hackstall was their defensive coach, so something to consider. And from what I understand, Manny Malhotra will now be coaching their PK and moving off the offense. So there's going to be some changes there. And that's a young coaching staff too in Toronto. I'm sure they're probably going to bring in a veteran now. But look, Dave Hackstall here, I would say he was an average coach. He had some ups, he had some downs. He probably stayed too long for his success, and I think that was just Hextall. I don't want to say being stubborn, but he takes his time. He's patient. And he was patient with his decision. And I don't know. I don't think it's the reason he got fired. Dave Hextall is not the reason that Hextall got fired. Hextall got fired because he's similar to me in some aspects that I think he likes things his way. And I think he has a vision and he likes to stick to it. He should have communicated better with his business partners. I would assume that has something to do with that. And, obviously when the team is struggling, you can jump all over him. Dave Hackstall, on the other hand, he had some ups. I mean, some players had their best seasons. Some players put up a lot of points there. I said this quite a bit, though. At times, he coached scared to lose. Overplaying veterans in certain roles. But then, shockingly, with like Shane Gostisbehere was no problem for him. I don't know exactly what to make of Hackstall because I know he's smart, I know he's intelligent. After actually his college team replaced him, they won the championship without him. And I know that got a lot of people nervous. Doesn't make him the X factor there. I'm a little surprised he got that job for sure, especially with the other names floating out there. But I don't think it's some kind of disaster or some kind of joke. I said this when he lost his job. He was going to find another one. That's what I'm talking about, the growth mindset. Everybody who thinks that just because somebody loses their job or they don't have a good season or, they get fired or something like that, that it's the end of them. Yeah, no. Especially these guys who literally work their ass off to get to the top. Like Dave Hackstall, I guarantee you, is not a lazy person. Like he probably did well in his interview. He's probably been working his butt off. He probably talks about what he did wrong in Philly and how he's adjusted to it. And he probably talked about expansion. He probably had his own ideas about expansion, about being new to a team with all new players. He has experience doing that. I don't know how he sold himself up, but he's not an idiot. He's not an amateur. He's not an idiot. He didn't get to the position he was in the NCAA by accident, and he didn't get to the NHL by accident. Maybe he's not the best coach in the league. I don't know. He's still pretty young dude. He could get better and better. Nobody knew Barry Trotz was as good as he was when he started in Nashville. I mean, Nashville fell short quite a bit. It takes time. It takes time to evolve. So I think it's an interesting move by Francis. Not, I can't say that would have been my first choice. Gerard Gallant would have been my first choice, but he's with the Rangers now. So there's that. And that's a guy who's kind of been fired a lot too. I mean, some of my favorite coaches get fired all the time. It just is what it is. So I would say I can understand why people don't like, or maybe are a little confused by the Dave Haxtell signing or hiring, but it's not like end of the world here. We'll see how he's adjusted. He wasn't the best coach in Philly. He was average. He had some good seasons and then some below average seasons. And about there, he's about an average coach, you know, but that overstayed his welcome. I don't think he really should have made it for, I think, 5 years. That's probably excessive. So I think maybe that's why most people are like, maybe they soured on him. But most coaches deserve a second chance. And sometimes coaches get fired early too. So let's hear it. Shout out to Dave Haxtell and good luck to him. I will say it does tell me that this is going to be a slow process in Seattle, and I don't necessarily think they're going to be approaching it the same way Vegas did, as aggressively. Again, with the current financial situation as well, I don't think they'll be able to. So maybe guys like Jake Voracek, who probably will be exposed, might be safe. But we'll see. I don't even know what's happening with that at this point. I mean, it's all a guess. All right, let's get into N.Patrick. N.Patrick has been in the news saying he wants a trade out of Philly. It's hard for me to believe that a 22-year-old is coming in there after missing all that time and demanding a trade out. I don't think that getting a new agent is the only reason the only thing that it means. Like I said, I think it could be simple negotiations. And again, a marginal increase in salary was due to Patrick. I don't care if people think it's stupid. It's true. And if you include inflation in that, without a doubt. And I talked to Colby Colin about that months ago. I'm not questioning this. If you think that what I'm saying to you is ridiculous, I don't know what to say. Go to business school. He deserved a marginal increase. That doesn't mean he deserved $4 million a year, but 1.1, a million even. He deserved something. If he wants out of town, he's at a frustrated road here. I would say, as GM, no. That's where I would be if I was Fletcher. I would say, okay, well, here's the offer I'm going to give you, which is an offer, and I'll give you a bump in pay because you deserved it initially, and you showed that you came back to the NHL. And I want a multi-year deal to lock you up real low cost. You're probably going to say no. You're going to want to bet on yourself again because you're second overall pick and you are talented. And people don't forget, he dominated juniors. He didn't barely get by. He dominated juniors and won an MVP as a 16-year-old, 16, 17-year-old with an injury and a championship with a guy who plays on our team, Ivan Provorov, who's also older than him. And he didn't win MVP. Patrick won MVP. So this kid is immensely talented. I'm not rushing to move him. If I am moving Patrick, there are some big names flying around right now. I could see him being a package for that if we want to talk about moving him. But I'm not throwing him away. I'm not exposing him to an expansion. And I'm not budging because he tells me I have to. This is asset management. I'd rather trade him maybe even during the season if I can at least get his production. What I would say to him, I go, look, if you really want out of here, if this is really what you want, then go play your ass off, and it'll be much easier for me to trade you. Sign the 1-year deal. I'll find you a home. It won't be exactly where you want, but I'll find you a home. Or you can choose to lock it in with everybody else. You had a bunch of friends on this team. Go have the best off season of your life and come back and prove everybody wrong. And then we'll talk about an extension of real money because I have money and I'm one of the wealthiest teams in the world, hockey teams. And that's why the Flyers shouldn't be talking about leaving Comcast. That is the luxury of Comcast, is that you have cash money. That if you have to keep a player, you can, and you don't have to start trading players because you financially are broke. I hope N.Patrick does stay. I think he's been working on a comeback. If he is moved, I would hope the return is good. If it's not, then loss on everybody. And that is a failure. Not end of the world. Nothing is end of the world. Nothing is catastrophic. And this team has enough talent to supplement any kind of decision. The other thing I look for, so let's talk about Ben Simmons for a second, who I still think has a chance to rebound as well. I don't know basketball as well, so other people can rip me open basketball easily. But I just want to use this example here. I don't see Ben Simmons' teammates defending him after what happened in the playoffs. Doesn't mean that they don't all believe in him. Doesn't mean he doesn't have friends on the team. I'm not trying to spread rumors or anything. But I don't see them going like, hey, no, Ben's our guy. He's going through something. Just give it time. Or, we believe in him. I haven't heard a word. So when I see that, I go, okay, potential trade coming. When I see Patrick, I see his teammates talking about him online, defending him online. Um, Makes me think that they want him around. And usually players leave town because the team finds him to be a distraction, especially team captain, Claude Giroux, who defended him publicly. So again, I'm going off of that. I also am going off an interview with Pierre LeBrun on Daily Faceoff, where I remember very specifically they talked about N.Patrick, and he just got finished. LeBrun just got finished interviewing Chuck Fletcher, and he said, "I think the Flyers should move on from Patrick." But after talking to Chuck Fletcher, I don't get the sense that that's what the Flyers want to do. These are things I'm going off of. I don't know. I don't know. I haven't talked to Patrick. I haven't talked to his agent. I have some connections within the Flyers organization. I have not reached out to them about this topic. I'm not trying to. And I'm also not a journalist, just so everybody's aware. And I'm not trying to be a journalist either. So I don't care. I'm a content creator. I'm a commentator. And I do this from my bedroom. There's no hiding that. And just in case, I do go to a lot of games. Not as much during COVID and not as much now for the same reasons that, handing it off to Lance. One, been too busy. Two, we give it to our writers. It's a reward for writing for Flyers Nitty Gritty. Simple. We want our writers to go. We want them to be on site. They work. They give us content. We want to pay them back. I'm not going to pull them out, but I have a bunch of tags from going to the games. And it's awesome. And I thank the Flyers every day for even giving us that opportunity because we're nobody. We're just starting. Like I'm not talking to people in the organization. Everything I say is off my gut instinct. So this is how I operate. And I think N.Patrick, again, I'm seeing the rumors go everywhere. If he's gone, he's gone, and I'm wrong, and I'm still upset about it. I'll tell you that much. Unless that return is very nice, which is the only way I'm moving him if I'm GM. Like if I'm getting Jack Eichel in that trade, okay, then I have to move Patrick and TK, right? Which is a lot, But to get a guy like Eichel, that's what you got to do. I don't know who's actually available. I do think Eichel's, with all of what we've heard, I think that's pretty likely. I know Matthew Chuck's name's thrown around. I don't know if that's true, but that's the type of situation where you start talking about guys like N.Patrick and TK. You're talking about other guys who are young and talented, who you want to supplement, who are young potential star players or are star players. Like that's the stuff we're talking about here. And I'm not trying to lose trades in desperation. Like just because the Flyers struggled this year, and again, their bottom was 14th place in the league. And in a league that's about to reshuffle again, and the divisions will be different again, and the ages will be different, and the players will be under different circumstances. My thing always is change coaches. Don't change your team. I mean, look at the Canadians. I'd rather keep the players, get rid of the coaches. It's very rare that the coach stays and the players leave. And there are not many coaches that are capable of even pulling that off. So if there are locker room problems in Philly, which I don't know if there are, to be honest, I've heard some stuff, but I don't know. If there are, then I would imagine the coaches are the ones to go, not the players. They'll probably first try to add players, and if these problems persist, it's always a top-down thing, especially with corporations. They're always going to axe the people up top, even if they're not responsible. So I don't know what will happen with Patrick. Having said that, I still think his game can rebound. I still think he is a very talented player. I think it was a conditioning issue all year. I think it's why he avoided some of those difficult places, but I actually didn't really see him do that defensively. Defensively, I saw him try to block shots. I saw him fight for space. I saw him back check hard. I just saw him kept his shift. His shifts were really short, 45 seconds. That's pretty much it. Again, he comes from a hockey legacy, right? Like his uncle is a superstar hockey player. His father was an average player, but again, they know their way around the league. Maybe they don't like what they see from the Flyers organization. Maybe that's why he wants a trade, if that's true. I don't know. But I would still wouldn't trade him, personally. Unless I'm winning the trade, I'm not trading him. I'd rather let you walk. All right. Let's move on. Let's talk about the offseason options. I talked about this quite a bit already, but I do want to talk about Seth Jones because Elliot Friedman has been talking about how the Flyers are still very much in on Seth Jones. I do think this is a likely move. It it seems like an opportunity for the Flyers. I believe he would enjoy playing here in Philly. Um, I think, especially with his father's connections to basketball and the fact that we have a big basketball culture here as well. I think that helps to some degree, at least to sell the city, not so much the Flyers. I think Philly is an awesome city, and I think he would enjoy living here as a young man. So, like, I could see that being an option for him. We also have a spot available for him. We also have the assets to get him. And that could mean moving a guy like Phil Myers or Travis Sanheim. But again, if you're replacing one young, you know, defenseman with upside with another young defenseman with upside, and you're getting the better one, it's probably worth it. I just hope we don't oversell. I don't think that'll be the case. I think Fletcher's pretty reserved with that stuff. But we're gonna have to give up something good. Like we might have to give up this 13th pick, which is a top 15 pick in a year we don't necessarily need it. But you always want to keep your pool full, right? You always want to develop talent. So I do think, there's a lot of conversation here about Seth Jones, and I think it's well warranted. I've said this before. Dougie Hamilton, talent wise, is what we need. The issue with Hamilton is that I don't know if his personality is necessarily going to help our locker room. And I don't know if Fletcher really wants to compete on the open market for that guy. I think you really want to try to get a guy like Jones in here early, not get him to free agency, even though I know he said he wants to do that, but we'll see. I don't even know what's real anymore because the media in general seems to get a lot of stuff wrong. Um, or sometimes just posturing. Sometimes, they're hearing stuff, but the media is being used as a negotiation tactic. That happens pretty much all the time. It happens in military tactics as well. So just because we hear about it doesn't mean it's actually the most likely case scenario. Um, but I do think Seth Jones would be very intriguing for the Flyers. I'd still be open to a guy like OEL. I've said this over and over again. I like OEL because if he's available, I don't even know if he's available, to be honest. But if he is available, I would be willing to take on that contract because I need a top guy like that, a veteran with good poise, good offensive game, good two-way game. We need a guy like that. If I don't have to bring in OEL and I can bring in a Seth Jones, yeah, I'd be interested in that too. The problem is, I think the Flyers would have to give up one of their best three defensemen, and Provorov is not going to be one of them, right? So it's going to be either Sanheim or Myers. And I think the Flyers probably be offering Myers and the 13th pick in the draft. for Seth Jones and probably something else as well. Another roster player of some sort. Um, maybe Scott Lawton even, which would be kind of weird after everything, but he's got value. The guy's got value. Or it could be could be a young prospect too with talent. It could be a Bobby Brink, could be a Jay O'Brien. Seth Jones is gonna be worth a lot, in a trade. He has a year left on his contract. But if you're trading for him, you know that he's re-signing here. You're not going to give up assets like that thinking, "Oh, I'm getting a year out of him." That's a mistake. That's a mistake. We don't need him that bad. I'd rather sign a UFA even for a year, get by on that and then see if he goes to the open market and then try to bid for him. He's more worth bidding for than Dougie Hamilton, in my opinion, because I think his personality would fit here a little bit better. I think he'd fit in the locker room well. But again, I'd be open to Jack Eichel too. I know people are nervous about his neck and all that, but I don't know. It doesn't scare me as much, I'd say. I really like Jack Eichel. I've always liked him a lot. So for me, like that's like if I'm giving up TK, and I know TK's name's been going around, like I could see a TK for Nylander type of trade. Toronto saves money and you get comparable players back and forth. I don't think the Flyers are rushing to make that trade. I don't really know if they have a huge benefit to it. Um, especially because they take on more salary and it complicates things a little bit. But Nylander's awesome, but TK is awesome too, because he has a little bit of downside. He's also a very physical, gritty type of guy. Definitely Philadelphia mindset. He's got a great motor on him. You combine TK with Patrick. You trade that for Eichel. I mean, you talk about Buffalo's able to sell that to their fan base. They're like, hey, look, we got a former second overall pick. Yeah, he's a little bit of a project, but he's healthy, right? They give the same spiel. He's healthy. We talked to his agent. We talked to his family. We scouted him deep, blah, blah, blah. And we got Travis Konechny, who realistically is at least a 70-point player in the NHL. So you got two guys who are coming in there to kind of supplement, what Eichel brings to them. And then they can go out and draft a center this year. They could get maybe even in addition, they get the Flyers 13th pick in that draft. And maybe the Flyers get like a second round pick in return. So it's like a second in Eichel or a third in Eichel for TK, Patrick, and a first. And like that's big names moving around. That's one where Buffalo can at least walk away and say, hey, look, it's part of our plan. It's part of our process. Right. And if they're gonna lose Eichel anyway. Problem is Eichel's locked up, but he's got a big price tag. So there's a negotiation there. I would be very interested in Jack Eichel, and I'd be very interested in Seth Jones. And if I was Columbus, I'd be trying to trade Seth Jones for Jack Eichel, for sure. And I'd be like, he's already locked up for 10 years. So nobody wants to stay here. Jack Eichel, we'll make you happy. Come on over. Come on. We got money. We got money. We got a city here. You'd be under the radar. But I doubt Jack Eichel's going to want that. Having said that, why would Buffalo care? And then Buffalo pretty much has the best young defense in the league, with Dahlin. Yeah, they got some players to re-sign, but, you got Dahlin and Seth Jones as a backbone of your D. Then you can slot down Ristolainen, let him play in his natural role. I don't know. I'm just brainstorming here. I don't know what they're going to do. That place is kind of a hellhole. I really hope the Flyers do make a play for one of these big names, but do it right, Don't lose the trade. Losing trades is stupid. Like, look at what Columbus did with the Jeff Carter trade, where they traded for Carter, who's a great player, but they lost that trade. I mean, without a doubt. They ended up with Jack Johnson in the end, and literally they traded Jake Voracek, what ended up being Sean Couturier. And I think the other one ended up being Nick Cousins, also a decent NHL player in his own right. Those three guys for Jeff Carter, that's crazy. Couturier is as good as Carter alone. So it's interesting to think about. Yeah, so I do want us to go out there, and I do want us to make a play for these guys. I just want to do it within reason. It's still going to be a hell of a cost. Even the stuff that I'm talking about, like a first, TK and Patrick, that's a locker room shakeup and a half but again, Eichel is a game changer player, and I would take it with the injury risks as well. So, um, sorry guys, got a phone call here, threw me off. So I do think that that it is appropriate to go out this year though and make moves. Like it has to happen, regardless, even if they didn't struggle that bad. Even if they didn't struggle that bad. Even if they didn't struggle that bad, it's still you have an abundance of prospects. You have kind of a cluster of wingers. It's just time to make a move. You're probably not getting rid of Lindblom, right? it, I don't think the Flyers are that interested in some kind of. It doesn't have to be a blockbuster, and even getting Seth Jones doesn't have to be some kind of blockbuster. But you do have to move assets to get him. Like again, like the first Myers and probably another good prospect that would require to get Seth Jones over here. But again, that means he is re-signing here. That means he's re-signing here. That if the Flyers make a trade like that, that means Seth Jones is here to stay. I don't expect them to make a move like that without that happening. All right, let's move on. Who else can I talk about here? I do want to talk about Carter Hart for a second because I noticed people have soured on him pretty quickly, but I've said this for a while. And you can find my video that I made about him almost 2 years ago, a player profile video. He is ahead of schedule. This is not a guy who, like, just because you see a bump in the road, it does not indicate his ceiling. So I think most people who listen to me would agree with this. Just give him time. I know I had Steve on here and he was talking about drafting a goalie, but I don't agree with him on that. I would like to get a younger backup than Brian Elliott. Hopefully we can bring somebody in that's good. I'm cool with Jonathan Bernier. He's had his up and downs as well. He's not going to come in here and be the savior. Carter Hart's still better than him. So, again, I think a lot has to do with team play. How is this team going to play? How are they going to pull it all together? And what are they really going to do to show that they're a better team than they were last year? And I don't mean through names on paper. I mean playing on the ice. They have to come in the best shape of their lives. No more getting out muscled in your zone. Like this stuff cannot happen again. It didn't happen the first year that AV was here. It happened the second year. So that tells me they were not ready for this season. They need to do a better job. Expansion is right around the corner. It's like literally, it's coming any day now. I expect moves to happen before that, but expansion is right around the corner. And someone is leaving. I don't know if it's going to be Ghost. I think a lot, honestly, I think it might be Aubrey Kubel with the Dave Hackstall pickup. It tells me maybe a little more measured. I do think the connection to Gossesbear, I think Ghost played really well under Hackstall, so that's possible. He might be like, no, like he can do it. We can put him as power play guy. I can get him. There's that element. I don't think they're going to be rushing to grab a Jake Voracek at that type of price. Having said that, I don't know if they're going to have better players than Jake Voracek available. It's just the cost, and it's not a financially secure time. And you're a brand new organization. But then again, Vegas was very aggressive. So Seattle has to be somewhat aggressive. I don't anticipate the Flyers trading away assets for teams to take a player. I think you can only take one, take whatever's available, and move the fuck on. Because you're not getting my other assets as well. And right now, picks and prospects are worth a hell of a lot. Like Patrick being signed for almost nothing has value. The guys like Frost, O'Brien, especially the guys who are like borderline guys who are about to make the NHL, that's value. That's value. Like if you can add a guy like Kotakaniemi, right? Not that they're going to trade him at all, but I mean like a guy like that who can play two-way game, a Nick Suzuki, right? Cole Caulfield. These guys who can play an NHL game and make almost nothing. Like that's immensely valuable to teams. And Aube Kubel plays an NHL game and honestly has a better defensive side than most people realize. He's a two-way player. He's a physical guy. So he could be the guy. I still think JVR has a chance as well, especially because his cap hit is higher than his actual financial cost. And he's a leader, and he had not a career year, but he played some of his best hockey for sure. Especially in the beginning of the year, I thought it was going to be a career year. And again, everybody counted him out, right? He was done. It's going to be an interesting offseason. I'm very interested to see how the Flyers go about this year. And what kind of measured moves can they make to improve their team practically, without selling the farm, without causing panic on one side, but also you have a lot of angry fans. You got to show them something. You can't go in with the same roster. That can't happen. I'm measured. It's not happening. If I'm GM, first of all, I would have made a move. Like, I'm making a move. Like, I'm telling people right now, if I'm GM, I'm making a trade this offseason, and I'm moving something of value to do it. Like I've said, top pairing is numero uno for me. And if I can't do that through a big trade or something, then I'll sign somebody who's maybe a lower end guy and try to bring in an offensive guy to supplement. Kevin Hayes is going to have some injury battles to deal with in the beginning of the season, right? For abdominal core surgery. But I still have talent on this team. So I'd be slow and I'd be measured. And again, if Patrick doesn't want to be here, you could trade him, but I'm not trading him at a loss. Almost everybody is tradable, in my opinion, outside of a handful of guys. Like, I don't agree that Farabee is tradable. Maybe some people do. I would not be even close to moving him, especially because I see him as a future captain, and locker room presence. So I have no interest in moving Farabee. Cam York at this point, why would you move him? But like, Zamula is movable. You know, maybe Zamula first, and I don't know. I don't know. You're gonna have to package something to get. If you want an elite player, you gotta give up. You gotta give up pieces, but you don't have to go nuts either. You don't have to go nuts. You can move away some good assets without going crazy. It just depends on the position that the player is in. What kind of leverage does the team have? In Jack Eichel's case, they have leverage. He's locked down. He's locked up. He's a performer. In Seth Jones' case, he's only locked up for 1 year, and they've lost players to walking away before. Teams know that. So it's going to be an interesting offseason. Don't get too harsh on anybody. But, it's really important to not lose sight of the bigger picture. Chris and I say it all the time, don't panic. Don't panic. It's not going to do you any good anyway. Like, the teams that lost, like Toronto, cannot panic. They have a good thing going there. Don't panic. You lost to a team that's in the Stanley Cup Finals right now. Don't panic. All right, let's close it on that. Thank you again, Jim Stakes. Thank you again for listening, everybody. I hope this episode of just me talking myself is entertaining enough. Again, I'll be back with Bill Meltzer next week, and then Steve Kornianos, unless something goes wrong. Hopefully not. But yeah, thank you, everybody. Seriously, so much for listening. And I had Henry, I believe his name was, stop me on the street to tell me he was a fan. That was one of the coolest moments. Yeah, like, I love talking about Flyers, so I'm probably just gonna keep going no matter what. I've been doing this in my room talking to myself for years prior, so why not put a mic in front of myself and stop talking to myself so much. But thank you, everybody, for honestly supporting the team, the writers. I just got a message from Sam where she said Riley liked her article. Like, you see the joy that it brings to people. And that's like part of the coolest part that Jamie and I have experienced to this is, like, sending people to the stadium, the locker room, to go, I don't want to say we're making people's dreams come true, but we're getting them a little closer to it. And that was done for me. Liam Jenkins, shout out to him. I mean, he gave me my start. I mean, it was Jamie who brought me in, but I mean, he sent me to my first game and got me in the locker room with the Flyers. I mean, that was a mind-blowing moment. And I definitely thank him till today for that. So Philly Sports Network, follow Philly Sports Network as well. They deserve it. And just, yeah, thank you. It's really all I got to say. It's like, it's awesome. It's fun. We're going to keep going. And we'll be back next season and probably the season after that, probably the season after that. And hopefully we get our shit together a little bit more so we can provide better content and better access and more consistent access. I mean, we pretty much send somebody to each game, but it's tough. You know, we have a lot of young writers, we have a lot of young people, and Jamie and I are just learning how to do a lot of this stuff. And I'm going to be starting my own company on the side as well on top of that. So it's going to get, and it's not going to compete with Flyers anyway. Just not going anywhere. Jamie and I are like this. So, and it's awesome. He's like perfect compliment for me because he's all editor and I'm all tech and video, and it works so well. Um, so yeah, make sure to follow them. Like, subscribe, comment, share if you can. That's a huge help. Keep commenting. I do read all the comments. I've just been so busy that I'm so sorry if I don't respond to you guys. It's not personal. It's nothing that you say to offend me. Actually, people who argue with me, I do not dislike you, just so you know that. I'm an arguer by nature, but it doesn't mean I actually am mad at you or anything like that. Just I argue, I'm fiery, and I say there's a cost to being outspoken. I'm willing to pay it, and I'm not really interested in changing. I want to keep doing what I'm doing. Like I'm doing this for a reason. Um, and again, you notice I don't attack people. I talk about sports. I'm never going to insult humans. You know, I don't care. Don't want it. Don't want drama. Not interested. I'm too busy. So, yeah, keep with the feedback. Like I like it. I like it. Thank you so much. And maybe I'll start doing a mailbag type of thing where I take questions because I'd like to get people more involved and hear from people who listen to the show. Would be awesome. So leave questions in the comments. Maybe I'll start doing that if you get to the end of this episode, and I'll probably start bringing that up. Maybe I'll bring that up at the beginning of the next show so people actually hear it. All right. Thank you again. Thank you everybody for listening. Like, subscribe, share, follow me, follow Jamie. Again, why Wolok at Twitter, IG, Instagram, pretty much everything. I'm Y Wolok. I keep it simple. But follow Jamie as well. Follow all of our writers. And remember, always stay great.